What's going on, guys? Today the market is closed, but I do have some things I want to talk about. Bitcoin over this 3-day weekend has pretty much done not a whole lot. It's been essentially sideways ever since the market closed. But we're going to talk about Bitcoin on the chart, what to expect there, and we also had something happen for Cleanspark. So let's get started on this video. It'll probably be a quicker one, and I apologize in advance if you hear my kids in the background. First off, I want to talk about Bitcoin. Throughout this 3-day weekend, it does look like we're pretty much sideways. However, it has been trying to recover ever since our drop down to 41,500 or so. And I'm personally really hoping for a bounce off of this trend line. It was previously a resistance. We flipped it as a support. We'll see if we can maintain it as a support, but if this does break, I do think the high 30,000s are likely. And you'll notice here we have a bit of a bearish divergence. The RSI is cooling off while price is rising, indicating a potential trend reversal. Now, this doesn't always play out, but keep an eye on it. One thing that's nice is the RSI has definitely cooled down a bit. We are no longer in overbought territory. We're actually more towards neutral. And you know, throughout this bull run since the end of 2022, Bitcoin on the RSI has only become pretty heavily oversold one time, back in August. Every other time we get near oversold, the market just eats it up. So when you see Bitcoin getting towards oversold on the daily, I do think it's a great opportunity to pick it up. That is if we get to oversold and the market doesn't just buy it right back up near oversold. But do keep an eye on Bitcoin. How we perform on Tuesday will likely dictate how the week goes. I think it'll set the tone. Now you'll see here Cleanspark, we actually did fill our gap. After hours on Friday, we did see a little more of a pullback. After our rough 12% down day, we did pull down a little bit more after hours and we went to fill this gap precisely. We got all the way down to 779 before bouncing right on the gap fill. Now we'll see if the market bounces this from here. Our gap is now full. The hurdle is now behind us. Next is watching how we hold on the 50 MA. Do we break it and head down to our previous support right around $7? It's still a possibility. And while Cleanspark isn't there yet, it's getting very near oversold. And just like with Bitcoin, even better actually. Since the bear market low, we haven't seen Cleanspark even get to that oversold territory, only bouncing near oversold. I do personally think when we get a little closer to oversold, buyers will step in if they don't already. And we have been seeing this a bit across the board. I mentioned this on Friday that Sphere 3D filled its gap during the market open. So hopefully as we see more of these Bitcoin miners, stocks like MicroStrategy filling their gaps, that can basically get the dead weight out of the way so that we can go on our next run. Now I did want to mention MicroStrategy again. I think this will perform very well when we get to the halving. When we get to the rewards being cut for miners, MicroStrategy won't have that problem. But we do have a gap down here in the 380s, 390s. We recently filled our last gap as this has been selling off. And I personally think right now is a great time to be adding to MicroStrategy. We're already at a 35% drop. And for MicroStrategy to fill its last gap, we'd need to drop a total of 50% from our recent high. And while it's definitely possible, I would certainly be a buyer here and as we continue down. And I have been adding to MicroStrategy over the last couple weeks. But this to me is looking pretty good. We're definitely more towards oversold territory now than being overbought. If you were looking to buy when this was hitting 52-week highs, asking, should I buy now? Well, I think now is the time you should be asking that. Next up, I want to talk about Bitfarms very briefly. We did see a huge run up on increased volume. We have been cooling off just like the other miners. And I'm going to be watching how Bitfarms or BITF manages at the 50 MA. And the 50 MA is also standing at a previous resistance. We're going to see if we flip it as support. I do think if you're interested in Bitfarms and, you know, wanting to buy over the last couple weeks when this was much higher in price, I think now is the time to be looking at it, thinking about buying. But thanks for watching, guys. Let me know what you're looking for this week in the market. Are you looking forward to a pullback, anticipating a pullback, or are you hoping that we go higher from here? But I believe Bitcoin will dictate how the week goes. So keep an eye on how Bitcoin behaves in the beginning of the market open. I do think it'll set the tone for the week. Thanks as always, guys. Hope you had a good 3-day weekend, and I'll catch you tomorrow.